wake in the middle of the night, your heart racing, fragments of a dream still clinging to your consciousness like morning mist. In that liminal space between sleep and waking, you sense something profound slipping away, something that felt more real than your waking life. You have always suspected that your dreams hold secrets, messages from a deeper reality, but you have been taught to dismiss them as random firings of neurons, meaningless static in the theater of your sleeping mind. What if everything you have been told about dreams is a carefully constructed lie? What if Jesus himself revealed that within every dream exists a hidden gate, a portal to divine consciousness that most people never discover because they have been conditioned to ignore the very moment when it can be opened? This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is a practical teaching that was deliberately removed from mainstream Christianity because it gave ordinary people direct access to the kingdom of heaven without intermediaries, without institutions, without permission from those who claimed authority over your spiritual life. Right now, in this moment, you are being offered a key that unlocks something the early Gnostic Christians knew, something that threatened the power structures of their time so profoundly that entire libraries were burned to keep this knowledge from reaching you. The gate exists. It opens at a specific time. And once you learn to find it, your entire understanding of reality, consciousness, and your divine nature will transform forever. The teaching about the hidden gate in dreams appears in fragments throughout the Gnostic Gospels, but its clearest expression comes from a saying attributed directly to Jesus in texts that were deemed too dangerous for the canonical Bible. In the Gospel of Thomas, discovered among the Nag Hammadi Library in 1945, Jesus speaks of the kingdom being both inside you and outside you, existing in a state that transcends the duality of inner and outer worlds. But there is another layer to this teaching that requires understanding the ancient context of dreams in spiritual practice. The early Christian mystics, influenced by Jewish mysticism and Hermetic traditions, understood that consciousness does not simply shut off during sleep. Instead, it transitions into a different mode of perception, one where the barriers between the material world and the spiritual realms become thin, permeable, accessible. The Pistis Sophia, another crucial Gnostic text, describes how the soul travels during sleep, how it can encounter divine beings, receive teachings directly from the source of all knowing, and return with transformative wisdom. Jesus taught his inner circle that the moments surrounding sleep, particularly the threshold moments, were sacred opportunities for gnosis, for direct knowing of the divine. The hidden gate he spoke of is not a physical structure, but a state of consciousness, a doorway that appears when you are suspended between worlds, when your thinking mind has released its grip, but your awareness remains present and alert. I want to pause here and ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever woken from a dream, feeling that you touched something sacred, something true, only to have that feeling dissolve as the day's demands pulled you back into ordinary consciousness? Have you felt frustrated by the sense that your spiritual life is confined to waking practices, to prayer and meditation that sometimes feel like you are speaking into an empty room, hoping someone hears? If you have experienced this, if you have felt that your dreams might be more than random images, I want you to do something right now. In the comments below, write these exact words. I am ready to find the hidden gate. Do not overthink it. Do not explain or elaborate. Just write those 7 words. I am ready to find the hidden gate. This is not superstition. This is a declaration of intention, and intention is the first key to unlocking the gate. When you write those words, you are joining a lineage of seekers who refuse to accept that spirituality must be mediated by external authorities. You are announcing to the universe, to your own deeper consciousness, that you are ready to step through the doorway that Jesus described. Your comment will also help this message reach others who are searching for the same truth, others who sense that something vital has been hidden from them. Write it now, before we continue. I am ready to find the hidden gate. Let those words be your first step through the threshold, and then we will explore exactly how to find this gate and what awaits you on the other side. Now we must understand what this hidden gate actually is, and why the moment before dawn holds such extraordinary spiritual significance. In the Gnostic understanding, the cosmos is structured in layers, what they called the pleroma, the fullness of divine reality, separated from the material world by veils of increasing density. Your consciousness, your true self, originates in the pleroma, but incarnation in a physical body creates a kind of amnesia, a forgetting of your divine origin. Sleep, however, partially reverses this process. When you dream, your consciousness is not bound by the same physical laws that govern waking reality. You can fly, you can walk through walls, you can encounter beings and places that do not exist in the material world. This is not imagination creating fantasy. This is your consciousness accessing dimensions that are always present but normally inaccessible to your waking awareness. The hidden gate that Jesus spoke of appears in a very specific state, one that modern researchers call hypnopompia, the transitional state between sleeping and waking. In ancient traditions, this was known as the threshold, the betwixt and between, the sacred moment when you are neither fully in the dream world nor fully in the waking world. It is in this liminal space that the gate can be perceived and entered. Before dawn is significant, because this is when the veil between worlds is thinnest, when the collective consciousness of humanity is still quiet, when the energetic noise of billions of waking minds has not yet created the dense field that makes mystical perception difficult. The early Christians and Gnostics knew this. They structured their spiritual practices around these threshold times. The practice of vigils, of waking in the darkest hours before dawn to pray and meditate, was not arbitrary. It was designed to position consciousness at the exact moment when the hidden gate could be found. The mechanism of how this gate operates relates directly to consciousness itself. In Gnostic cosmology, you are not simply a body that somehow generates consciousness. You are consciousness that has taken on a body, consciousness that has descended from higher realms and become entangled in matter. The body and the thinking mind create what the Gnostics called the archontic influence, layers of programming and conditioning that keep you identified with the material world and unaware of your true nature. During waking hours, this influence is strongest. Your attention is captured by sensory input, by thoughts, by emotions, by the constant stream of concerns about survival, status, and maintaining the self-image you have constructed. During deep sleep, consciousness withdraws so completely that there is no awareness at all, no opportunity for gnosis. But in the threshold state, something remarkable happens. The archontic influence is weak, because the thinking mind is not yet fully active, but consciousness itself is present, aware, capable of perception. This is the window. This is when the gate appears. It appears as a quality of awareness, a sense of heightened presence, a feeling that you are more awake in this transitional state than you are in ordinary waking consciousness. If you can learn to recognize this state and remain in it intentionally, if you can resist the automatic pull back into either sleep or full waking, you can step through the gate into what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven, what the Gnostics called the pleroma, what mystics of all traditions have described as direct communion with the divine ground of being. The practical technique for finding this gate was taught in the mystery schools of early Christianity, passed from teacher to student in oral transmission, because writing it down would have made it too accessible to those who were not prepared. But the essence of the practice can be reconstructed from fragments in various Gnostic texts and from parallel techniques in other mystical traditions that share the same underlying understanding of consciousness. You begin by setting a clear intention before sleep. This is crucial. You are programming your consciousness to become aware at the threshold moment. You do this through a simple but profound practice. As you lie in bed preparing for sleep, you repeat internally, silently, a phrase of power. The words themselves matter less than the focused intention behind them. You might say, "I will wake within the dream," or "I will find the gate at dawn," or even the simple declaration, "I will be aware." You repeat this phrase as you feel yourself drifting toward sleep, keeping your attention gently focused on the words, even as your body relaxes completely. This plants a seed in your consciousness that will germinate at the right moment. Then, and this is the key that most people miss, you set an intention to wake naturally before dawn, in the darkest hour before the sun rises. This is not about using an alarm, though you can use one initially to train yourself. This is about allowing your consciousness to surface naturally in that threshold time. When you do wake in that pre-dawn darkness, do not move. Do not open your eyes. Do not engage your thinking mind by immediately planning your day or analyzing your dreams. Simply notice that you are aware. Notice the quality of your consciousness in this moment. You are awake enough to know that you are aware, but you are still touching the dream world. Images, feelings, and fragments from your dreams are still accessible. This is the gate. This is the state. You are standing in the doorway between worlds. What you do next determines whether you step through the gate or whether you lose the opportunity and collapse back into either sleep or ordinary waking consciousness. The teaching is to hold this state, to rest in this awareness, without trying to do anything with it. This is the hardest part for most people, because the thinking mind wants to activate, wants to analyze, wants to make sense of the experience. But making sense is a function of ordinary consciousness. The gate does not open to the thinking mind. It opens to pure awareness, to the witness consciousness that exists prior to thought. So you remain still, barely breathing, feeling yourself suspended in this liminal space. And as you do this, something begins to happen. The quality of your awareness deepens. What started as a simple recognition, "I am aware," begins to expand. You start to perceive that the awareness itself is vast, luminous, not contained in your body, but containing your body, containing the room, containing everything. This is not imagination. This is direct perception of your true nature, the consciousness that the Gnostics said was a spark of the divine light trapped in matter. As this awareness deepens, you may begin to perceive what earlier mystics described as the light, an inner luminosity that has nothing to do with physical light, but is the radiance of consciousness itself perceiving its own nature. You may hear what they called the sound current, a subtle vibration or tone that seems to emanate from the center of your being and from the fabric of reality itself. These are not hallucinations. These are perceptions that become possible when consciousness is freed from the filtering mechanisms of the ordinary waking mind. You have stepped through the gate. You are experiencing what Jesus meant when he said the kingdom of heaven is within you. You are having direct gnosis, unmediated knowing of the divine reality that underlies all appearances. The implications of this practice, when sustained over time, are genuinely transformative in ways that go far beyond interesting spiritual experiences. Each time you successfully find the gate and step through it, even briefly, you are rewiring your consciousness, creating new neural pathways that make the threshold state easier to access. But more importantly, you are loosening the identification with the material self, with the small self that believes it is only a body in a world of separation and limitation. The Gnostic texts describe this as the process of awakening from the cosmic sleep, of remembering your true identity as a being of light temporarily inhabiting a material form. This remembering changes how you live your waking life. The fears that once dominated you begin to lose their power because you have directly experienced that your essential nature is not the vulnerable body that will age and die, but the eternal consciousness that witnesses all experience. The desires that once drove you compulsively begin to quiet because you have tasted a fulfillment that does not depend on external circumstances. The sense of separation from others begins to dissolve because in the threshold state, in the space beyond the gate, you can perceive the unity that connects all consciousness, the shared divine source from which all individual awareness springs. This is why this teaching was suppressed. This is why the institutional church chose to exclude the Gnostic Gospels from the canon and eventually declared Gnosticism itself a heresy. When people have direct access to divine consciousness, when they can step through the hidden gate without needing priests or rituals or doctrines, the power structures that depend on mediating access to the divine lose their authority. The teaching had to be hidden because it was too liberating, too empowering, too dangerous to those who built their authority on the claim that they alone could connect you to God. You can begin this practice tonight. You do not need special training. You do not need to join an organization or study for years. You need only the willingness to pay attention in a way that you have probably never been taught to pay attention, to value the threshold moments that most people rush through in their hurry to either fully sleep or fully wake. Set your intention as you fall asleep tonight. Plant the seed. I will be aware at the threshold. I will find the hidden gate. Allow yourself to wake naturally in the hours before dawn. When you do wake, remember not to move, not to think, simply to notice that you are aware. Rest in that awareness. Let it deepen. See what reveals itself when you stop trying to make something happen and simply allow yourself to be present in that sacred liminal space. You will not master this in one night. Like any spiritual practice, this requires consistency, patience, and a willingness to fail repeatedly as you learn the subtle art of navigating consciousness between worlds. But unlike many spiritual practices that require years of preparation before you experience any direct results, this practice can yield immediate glimpses, brief moments of stepping through the gate that confirm you are on the right path. Each successful entry, each moment of expanded awareness in the threshold state will encourage you to continue, to deepen, to make this practice a central part of your spiritual life. The hidden gate that Jesus revealed is not a teaching from the past. It is an eternal doorway, always present, always accessible to those who learn to find it. In our modern world, where technology has invaded even our sleep, with screens and notifications, where the natural rhythms of darkness and light have been disrupted, where spiritual practice has been reduced to consuming content rather than having direct experience, this ancient technique offers something radical. It offers you a way to reclaim your sovereignty as a spiritual being, to access the kingdom of heaven that Jesus said was never somewhere else, but always within you, waiting to be discovered. The gate opens before dawn. It opens in the space between sleeping and waking. It opens to the consciousness that learns to remain aware when it would normally drift into unconsciousness or snap into ordinary thinking. You have the capacity to find this gate. You have always had this capacity. It is your birthright as a being of consciousness, as a spark of the divine light. What has been hidden can be revealed. What has been forgotten can be remembered. The gate is there, in every dream, in every threshold moment. All you need to do is learn to recognize it and choose to step through. The kingdom awaits on the other side, not as a reward in some distant afterlife, but as a present reality that exists right now, in this moment, in the depths of your own being, accessible every time you wake before dawn and remember to be aware in the space between worlds. If this teaching resonates with you, if you sense its truth in the depths of your being, I want to invite you to continue this journey with me. Subscribe to this channel because we are building a community of modern Gnostics, people who refuse to accept second-hand spirituality and are committed to direct experience of divine reality. In the coming videos, we will explore other suppressed teachings from the Gnostic tradition, practical techniques that were hidden for centuries but are now being recovered and shared with those who are ready. Leave a comment sharing your experiences with threshold states, with meaningful dreams, with moments when you sensed the presence of something beyond ordinary reality. Your sharing helps others feel less alone in their seeking and creates a field of collective intention that supports everyone in this community. The path of Gnosis is not walked alone. We are all sparks of the same divine light, and when we share our experiences and support each other, the journey becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The hidden gate is waiting for you tonight. Do not let another dawn pass without seeking it. Your true nature as divine consciousness is calling you home, and the doorway stands open to all who have the courage to step through.